This Organized Chaos podcast is brought to you by JEMS Art Studio. JEMS Art Studio is an online store that allows access to prints that you can use for most anything, obviously as just a picture, or as a wallpaper, or as a bookmark, or anything you can think of. You can find JEMS Art Studio at etsy.com/shop/JEMS Art Studio. This podcast is also brought to you by listeners like you. Thank you. Hello, got a totally adequate show for you today. It was a little break. Spent a lot of time with my kids, and I kind of want to space this around when I have time with my kids, and since during summer I have my kids a lot. So I will just be doing the podcast, as I explained last time, when I'm off from my regular job, which is exhausting. But this is actually the first day off I've had since, I think it was Thursday last week was my last day off, so 6 days in a row. So that was fun. Totally fun. Totally recommend doing that as often as possible, because it's a blast. But anyways, we got some topics to talk about. We are going to talk about the new Fast and Furious movie, because boy, oh boy, that was fun. We are going to talk about Loki. We're going to catch up on Loki, because last week we had episode 4, and then episode 5 was yesterday. We are going to talk about Superman and Lois, because I like to say because I got caught up with the entire series, and I want to talk about it. And we're going to do a soapbox. It's going to be employees versus employers this week for the soapbox. So let's dive right into this I can't say it. Let's dive right into this workhorse of a show. It'll be truly adequate. So I have this whole visual set up right now, which if you are listening to the podcast, you do not get to take advantage of it. But I assure you, it looks really pretty. I do need to fix the lighting, because the lighting's still grainy. I need another light source. But let's dive right in. We are going to start out with the big movie from last week, Fast and the Furious. Or, it wasn't Fast, it was the title. It was F9, The Fast Saga. That was the title. Now, is there any title consistency in this series? Absolutely not. This series is insane. I guess I'll go ahead and recap kind of my thoughts of this series as a whole, because I think the first one is fine. The first one's kind of this dumb, well, I don't know. Yeah, it is kind of it's kind of typical of the early 2000s, just kind of a Point Break remake. There's nothing really special about it. It's fine. I don't dislike it. I'm not wildly thrilled with it, but it's fine. It's a Point Break remake, but not as good as the original Point Break. Of course, the Dom, who is essentially the is it Brody? The Patrick Swayze in Point Break. Patrick Swayze, spoiler alert for Point Break, a 30-year-old movie. God, I'm getting old. A 30-year-old movie at this point. Patrick Swayze dies at the end. Well, the Dom, who is the Vin Diesel character, he survives Fast and Furious, so now they can do sequels. Then we get to Too Fast, Too Furious, and that one sucks. I really did not enjoy Too Fast, Too Furious. It was just boring. And then we get to Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, which feels like a spin-off. But this one I largely enjoy. I liked Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift quite a bit. And one thing I will say is that one of the supporting characters, Han, pretty much like you're okay with the movie, but when he walks in, you are instantly involved in that movie. He sells that movie so much. So even though he's not in the whole movie, you really dig it. And then it's kind of sad when he dies, but you kind of dig that movie. And then, of course, Dom gets a little cameo at the end. And then we get to Fast and Furious, because the trend at that time that movie came out was, hey, let's just titled the movie the same as the original, but we're going to cut all the thes out of the title. So we end up with Final Destination instead of The Final Destination, and Fast and Furious instead of The Fast and the Furious. It was dumb. Of course, Fast and Furious titles are dumb. We're going to totally get into that. Anyways, Fast and Furious was boring. That might be my least favorite one of the bunch. At least Too Fast, Too Furious was kind of stupid, and you could kind of enjoy it from that angle. But Fast and Furious, and that was actually the one to bring back the entire cast for the first time since, or the big players of the cast. That brought them back in for the first time since the original movie. And it also introduced, I want to say Han was introduced in that one. I don't know if it's that one or Fast 5 where Han becomes a player all of a sudden. I know the Gal Gadot character, whose name in that franchise eludes me, that's where she first pops up as Fast and Furious. But then we get to Fast 5. Fast 5 is so much fun. Oh my god, that's probably my favorite one so far. That's the one where they're dragging it safe at the end. It's so out there and ridiculous. I love it. That definitely, if Han's not in the fourth one, he's definitely in the fifth one. And who else? The Rock. The Rock is introduced in the fifth one as well. That movie is awesome. I love Fast 5. It is dumb, and it's fantastic for that reason. After Fast 5 Fast and Furious 6, one of the most logical titles in this franchise that makes no sense. And that one's fun too. I don't have a whole lot to say about Fast and Furious 6 other than I remember enjoying it about as much as Fast 5. It's not as memorable, obviously, but yeah, that one was fun. The big event of that one was that brings Letty back. Letty dies, I want to say, in Fast and Furious, and then they bring her back. She's in the picture there. So, yeah, she's there with John Cena there. She's one of the resurrected characters. And then that one ends with the reveal of Han. It goes back to Tokyo Drift, revealing that Tokyo Drift actually takes place after these movies, after 4, 5, and 6. Then you get to Tokyo Drift, and we see Han's death again, and then Jason Statham steps out of this car, and he's like, yeah, I killed him. And he's introduced as the big new villain for, what did they call it? Furious 7. That's it. So we get to Furious 7, and this is when Justin Lin, this is his first movie where he doesn't direct it. So Justin Lin directed Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious 6. Essentially the worst one and the two best ones in the franchise. And this is his first one away, and it's the horror guy, James Wan. He comes in and directs this one, and it's still entertaining. It's still fairly dumb. It does reveal he's not as good at action as Justin Lin. So the action in this one's not as great, which is a little bit disappointing, because this is when the team kind of gets together to avenge Han and beat up Jason Statham, and it's fine. It's a letdown, I would have to say, but it's not bad. You can still have fun with this one. That's the thing with these movies. If you're going into it looking for some sort of deep enjoyment factor, some sort of deep storytelling with a deep moral or anything, you're going at these movies the wrong way. You need to watch these movies just for fun, because they're dumb. That was probably the issue with probably the first 4, less so with 3, because they take themselves too seriously. Especially, as I recall, especially the fourth one. The fourth one took itself so seriously, and it if you look at the raw story of that one, it's fairly dumb, but it took itself so goddamn seriously. What's next? Where did I leave off? Furious 7. So after that, we get to... What's next? Yeah, it's Fate. Fate of the Furious. That's the one where we get introduced to Charlize Theron as the big new villain. That is fine. It's another step down. It's not as good as Furious 7. Not as good, obviously, as Fast and Furious 6. It is entertaining. That's the one where we actually have The Rock throw a torpedo at a submarine to sink it, which is dumb. It's not as much fun as you'd hope, though. There are some good moments in that one, but it feels like we're going downhill, especially after Fast 6, but really after Fast and Furious, or Fast 6, Fast 5. But it's all been going downhill since Fast 5, but Fast and Furious 6 still maintained a lot of that energy, and you can really start feeling it go downhill. I still enjoy Fate of the Furious, but it's not as good. But then we get into the spin-off, which is Hobbs and Shaw. What is it called? Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. That's it. It's Jason Statham and The Rock in their own movie. In that one, it's still stupid. They're fighting a cyborg Idris Elba in that one. But it's kind of boring, too. Like, it's dumb, but they don't do everything they can with the dumb premise. You think, like, they're fighting this cyborg. Oh, that sounds awesome. And not really. Not really at all. I'm not a huge fan of how that's framed. But it is what it is. That's probably the first one since the fourth one that I'd say I don't like. So that brings us all the way here. F9, the Fast Saga, how it's titled. Because everybody calls them the F Saga, right? The Fast Saga. I don't know. These titles make no goddamn sense. But anyways, we're to this one. And this is actually the return of Justin Lin. He did 3 of these, and now he's doing his 4th one. He's definitely directed more of these movies. Wait, did he do... That's right, he did... I misspoke before. He did do Tokyo Drift. He did Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, the 4th one, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious 6. And now he's coming back. This is actually his 5th one. So of, a total of 10 movies, he's done half of them. That's pretty impressive. Anyways, Justin Lin is back. And this one is so fucking stupid that I kind of fucking love it. It's insane how stupid it is. The whole plot gets kicked into gear where the team comes to Dom and his family, and they have this emergency message from Mr. Nobody saying that his plane's going down, and he is calling them for help, because as we all know, when the CIA is in trouble, no one can help them but this group of illegal street racers. They will save the day. Yay! Oh, it's so dumb. But I kind of love this. So, like, Dom is, like, researching this. And there's this focus on his necklace. That he has this cross necklace here. And there's this flashback scene where he is... He's like he sees the necklace in one of the photos from Mr. Nobody, and he's flashing back to seeing this necklace, the cross and other symbols. Like I think there's a shot of his necklace, then a shot of the similar necklace somewhere else, then a shot of just like a cross on a church. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I would love it if the big twist here was that the entire religion of Catholicism was actually invented as a secret message to Dom in this franchise. The franchise is so stupid that I would kind of love it if it took that extreme route. Now, of course it doesn't. But the fact that it crossed my mind as a possibility lets you know where this franchise is at this moment. Anyways, we have this focus on his necklace. Of course, the team goes to the plane. They have this wild chase in the jungle. They defy physics multiple times to elude the enemies. Like, there's this one time where the bridge, it does that trick. I wish I pulled up an image for this, but it does that trick where, like, the car goes on the bridge, and then the back end of the bridge blows out, so the bridge is falling, and the car has to outrace the falling bridge, which makes no sense, because what is it grabbing onto? The whole bridge is falling. It's not like it's... the car, there's no way it's fast enough. That half of the bridge is blown out, the car is falling. But of course, it can defy physics and shoot its way across before the bridge falls all the way. Because that's how the physics in this movie works. Anyways, that's not even where it gets the craziest. Slightly less crazy in that is where we actually get these shots of the John Cena character. Here, I'll go back to their image. Because we see little shots of him. He's obviously the big heavy for this movie. But we get these shots of him, and it's obviously meaningful, But his last shot is Dom chasing him, and he's chased him to this cliff, and oh my god, he's not going to get off. And he shoots right off the cliff, and a plane flies by and catches him. And somehow that's not the craziest thing in this movie by a long shot. But anyways, Dom has to suddenly stop. And God, I don't remember. Like, I guess it's been like a week since I've seen it. But there's this great scene where Dom is going towards that bridge that had been blown up before. And what he manages to do somehow is get a rope from that bridge. There's no way you can plan this. He gets a rope from that bridge to wrap itself around his wheel well. And then he swings the car over a cliff to another cliff. And it's, if you're thinking that makes no sense, yeah. But he does it because, you know, if you're really good with cars, you can do shit like that somehow. Of course, they survive unharmed. Anyways, there's also... I'm not really going to focus too much on the story. I'm going to focus on events because the story doesn't make any sense and it doesn't fucking matter. There's this point where they're investigating the cross where they got this postcard with the cross on it. First of all, I'll explain some story here. One of the crosses is the necklace that Dom has. John Cena also has one of these necklaces. So that necklace there. John Cena also has one of these necklaces. And the reason he has one is because he's Dom's long-lost brother. Dom, this guy who's all about family. And whose approach to his brother is also like, yeah, fuck that guy. And the movie does explain that. There's lots of flashbacks in this movie with Dom and his brother, where they're played by alternate actors instead of de-aging them, which honestly doesn't really work all that well. I don't know why they didn't de-age them. Maybe just because actually having different actors on there would be probably cheaper than having especially Vin Diesel on the set more. I'm certain his paycheck's pretty pricey after doing 9 of these things. Well, I guess he's done 8. Like, maybe 7.1 would be more accurate because he was barely in the third one. Anyways, I digress. So he has one because he's his long-lost brother, but they also got this postcard with a cross on it, and they go to investigate that. It's Letty and Mia, who's back for the first time since the 7th one, and they find Han is there. And Han survived Jason Statham killing him because Mr. Nobody apparently arranged it, and it's not really explained outside of that. You see the car crash again, and then Mr. Nobody and Han are there, and Han's like, oh, that was very convincing. And Mr. Nobody's like, yeah, it's my specialty. And it's like, how did he get out of the car? Was that like an android Han in the car? What? What the heck? It doesn't explain it. It's just, oh yeah, he wasn't actually there, so he's not dead. So anyways, we got Han back, whatever, at this point. Han, I do enjoy the character of Han, so sure, whatever. Let's resurrect another character. Officially, 2 resurrected characters in this franchise. What the heck? So that gets us caught up to what you mainly need to know from the story. Charlize Theron does come back, and as far as the main story goes, she overthrows the John Cena brother as the main villain, so they'll probably do a redemption arc for him in Fast 10, or F10, Judgment Day, whatever they call it. As far as the other big stuff from the movie I want to talk about. So, they encounter this magnetic, they set up a jamming system in this one city with like this huge electromagnetic field. And it's being generated by this van they discover and they end up stealing. So they spread this technology to other cars. So the cars, instead of just doing electromagnetic field, they're just magnets. And they can control the strength of the magnets. And they can do like reverse polarity. So they can pull cars towards each other. They can have cars flip over them by reversing the polarity. They can... and how they work is largely just however they want them to work at that moment. It can sometimes yank a whole car pretty much almost through a building and attach to another car. And sometimes it just kind of picks up little things, and it can throw them at the car behind them or attach to that car specifically. And it doesn't matter. It's dumb. It's kind of fun to watch, but it's dumb. It's very dumb. But we are not at the what is it, the resistance, the pure glory of how dumb this movie gets, which is space car. They launch a car into space in this movie and drive it into a satellite. I kind of almost want to say it was their plan A. It wasn't quite their plan A. It was pretty close. Plan A did involve launching a car into space and then driving it to a satellite. And you see, they modified this car for space travel, and they're wearing like scuba gear. Whatever. It's so dumb. But obviously they're supposed to like send this signal to get it to not work, obviously. Which, why are you driving up to a satellite to get it to not work? Can't you just send a signal? What? So obviously that doesn't work. So they go and they just say, okay, fuck it, and drive into the satellite. Oh my god, it's so dumb. I love it. This is so gloriously dumb. This movie embraces the raw stupidity for what it is. This is street racer super spies. I want them to make an army of space cars in the next movie. I want the next movie to be an army of space cars. I want the 11th and, in theory, final entry of the Fast franchise, which is what they're saying it will be. We'll see. Box office will probably change that if it's successful. But I want the 11th one to be called The Furious Planet, where they're just on another planet racing aliens or some shit. I would love that shit. This is getting so goddamn stupid that I love it. This is, I mean, any semblance of this movie about anything deep or thoughtful is out the window, and it's just raw stupidity. And I think Justin Lin knows that, and he is just having a ball with it. And you know what? So am I. Keep going, man. If it continues on this course, do 50 of these movies. Do a crossover with Jason in space. Just do it. Why not? Oh. Yeah. I enjoyed this movie thoroughly. If you're looking for something deep and thoughtful, why are you even looking at this franchise? Are you stoned? No. If you're looking for dumb fun, this is it. This is the movie you want. Oh. So much fun. Okay. Now we will move on. We got 2 episodes of Loki to go over. And jeez. Okay, so that last episode, Lamentus, where they're just on that planet running around, it was fine. It was a little dull. It felt like a filler episode. It was the Lokis getting to know each other. And, I don't know. We will throw up this image. I didn't put in a default image for Loki. So, boom. We'll use this guy. Anyways, it's just the 2 Lokis getting to know each other. And I wish there was more to that. There's not a huge story to that one. Other than they're just running around in this planet that's falling apart. And one thing that people were posting about was that, hey, did you think there was chemistry between the 2 Lokis? And I just thought, no. I didn't think there was any chemistry between them. I thought they're getting to know each other. They're getting familiar with each other. But as far as like chemistry, usually I think of romantic chemistry. Did I see anything in the Lamentus episode? No. But then we get to the beginning of the next one. Nexus event? I think it's called something like that. Anyways, all of a sudden, it's implied that, yes, they have romantic chemistry with each other, so I guess I was wrong, even though I didn't read that all in the Lamentus episode. Whatever. And the idea of the 2 variants being, having a thing for each other causes huge Nexus spikes, so the TVA has to pop up and grab them and be like, what the fuck? So, anyways, we have Loki is with Mobius, and Mobius is, talk to him, and Loki's explaining how everybody in the TVA is actually a variant. The TVA is manipulating this whole situation. And I didn't bring up an image, but we do get, the audience gets a clip of Renslayer talking to the Timekeepers at the beginning of this episode. And we just get their silhouettes, but at that they look like watchers. And there's even some lines where it talks about how the Timekeepers are watching them. So I thought, oh, are these going to be watchers? That'd be weird, watchers getting involved. We see later it's not. They look very comic booky, though. There probably is a history. I didn't get a chance to look up all of it, though. Where was I at? Oh, yeah. So, Loki, our main Loki, is trying to talk to Mobius. Mobius is telling him, oh, that's bullshit. I don't believe it. But we actually follow Mobius separately and see that he is kind of investigating it because it is piquing his interest. And what he finds out is that Renslayer says she killed C20 because she was corrupted by the female Loki variant. I did bring up that. So, Renslayer saying she killed her because she was, like, not exposed, but like she was corrupted and she just couldn't be dealt with anymore. So she got rid of her. So, so Mobius starts investigating and finds out that no, she didn't go insane or anything. She was just saying she's a variant. We're all variants. The TVA is keeping stuff from us. So Mobius discovers this by switching his tempad with Renslayer's. While this is going on, we also see Sylvie talking to C25, who's in our one of the TVA people. And it's a very similar thing where Sylvie and C15 are, she's revealing to C15 that she's just a variant. She's just not a person, and TVA is lying to you. And Renslayer, what eventually happens is Loki, Mobius pretty much figures out, we are variants. So he goes and tells Loki, hey, let's figure this out. But of course, Renslayer figures out the tempads are switched. So while Mobius is trying to get them out, Renslayer pops in and she apparently kills, or prunes as they like to call it, Mobius, which was kind of shocking. I was like, wow, that's it for him? I assumed there'd be more. In fact, when I watch this, I assume there's probably going to be more to him, that this isn't the end of his story, but maybe it is. So it's kind of crazy. But anyways, Loki does eventually break out. He meets up with... they capture Loki. They take him to the Timekeepers, and then we see much clearer that they are not Watchers. They're very comic booky characters. God, I wanted to look up what they were before I did this. My bad, I didn't. But Loki is brought to them, as well as Sylvie. And they confront the Timekeepers. And C15 then pops in, and they're able to throw the TVA for a loop. They overpower the TVA, the three of them. And then they go to confront the Timekeepers, at which point Sylvie just throws, I don't remember what it was, but throws something at the Timekeeper and decapitates one of them, and we just see sparks flying, and they're cyborgs. Realize if these are the Timekeepers, they aren't really the Timekeepers, because these are just the androids. These are nothing. So that brings us to the very end of the episode, when Renslayer kind of gets up, because she was rendered unconscious. She gets up, and then she... what the heck was that? She goes through, and she prunes Loki. Which is... at that point, that's when you realize Mobius must still be alive, because they aren't going to kill that Loki when we got at least 2 episodes left. That's insane. So that brings us to the mid-credit scene, which is also the beginning of the next episode, where he wakes up and he just sees these other Lokis standing there. And that is interesting. And that's the end of that episode. We get 4 Lokis. We get this guy with the hammer. We get classic Loki by, what's his name? Oh, I know that guy's name. Who is classic Loki? Shit. He's from LA Story. He's been around. Why is Michael Sheen the only name? Grant. Richard Grant. God, I don't know why it took me so long. This young kid, and then Alligator Loki. He sees them standing there, and what we find out is that they are actually at the end of the universe. When you get pruned, it's not instant death. When you get pruned, you get teleported to the end of the universe. And what happens then is that a smoke monster comes by and kills you at that moment. Which, I'm not going to lie, it's not that big a deal in this episode, but smoke monsters feel so lazy to me. It's probably just after Fantastic Four 2 and the reveal of Galactus. I am so done with smoke monsters. I guess it's been a while since we've really seen one, and it's obviously not the main antagonist of the series, so I can let it go. But yeah, smoke monster. You get pruned, you get sent to the end of the universe, and a smoke monster eats you. That's what the whole thing is at this point. And he teams up with this group of Lokis, and then we get even more Lokis pop up. And what we see, what's explained is that the reason why there's a whole bunch of Lokis here is that Lokis are survivors. They keep on eluding this smoke monster, and they make these teams, but then they just backstab the shit out of each other. And we see, like, our main Loki's watching this, and you realize he's kind of learning, wow, this is where my life went wrong. Because these guys, like, they can't trust each other. They just backstab each other all the time. So Loki and a couple of the original Lokis we saw, I want to say it's Richard E. Grant, the kid, and Alligator Loki, kind of break free while all the other Lokis backstab the crap out of each other. They meet up with Sylvie and Mobius. By the way, I skipped the whole thing. So Sylvie and Renslayer actually make a deal to investigate what's going on. And Renslayer pretty much instantly betrays her. And Sylvie kind of eludes capture and prunes herself. And she gets attacked by the smoke monster. And Mobius? God, why am I tripping on that now? Mobius comes in a car and saves her. So let's go. We'll just leave it on that one. Wow, Richard E. Grant right there. I'm brain farting. It's right in my notes. So eventually they all get caught up. The Sylvie, Lokis, the four Lokis. Yeah, with Alligator Loki, it's 4 Lokis, and Mobius all get caught up. They come up with a plan. Mobius, Sylvie, when she left, took a temp pad with her, and so Mobius takes the temp pad, goes to TVA with the attempt to try to overthrow it, while Sylvie and Loki are going to enchant the smoke monster to try to get to the timekeepers, if there are actually timekeepers, and that's where the episode ends. I enjoy these episodes quite a bit more than episode 3. I think the last one especially. I feel like episode 5 and 3 are in common in a lot of ways because they feel kind of fillery, but I feel like where episode 3 just kind of felt like you knew more or less where it was going the whole time. Episode 5 was a bit more wild and crazy, and the character does learn something about himself, more substantial. And I enjoyed 5 quite a bit more than 3, even though at the end of the day they are kind of filling the same purpose in the series. Still, like, I have to say, this is a good series. Is it the best of the Disney Plus series? I have to see where it ends up. I compared a lot to, I would say WandaVision is probably my favorite at this point. WandaVision has a rough beginning, which this one doesn't have. This one launches you right into it and then a little bit slower in the middle. Still, I'm really enjoying this series overall. It's a good one. These were a couple of good episodes. I dug it. Now we're going to go to Superman and Lois. And one thing I will say before I 100%, this is what I'm saying kind of goes for Superman, Lois, and Loki. Some of the screening in these series is really bad. It's clearly like a fake set, and they're just superimposing it. It's, I want to say, like, the screening's worse in Superman and Lois than it is in Loki overall. That being said, it's also very clear that Loki has a much bigger budget. So, in a lot of ways, even though it's better in Loki, I blame Loki a bit more for this because it has a bigger budget. There's really no excuse for it in Loki. Superman and Lois is a CW show. There's kind of an excuse there. Anyways, we're gonna go to Superman and Lois. First thing we're going to talk about, episodes 6 through 11, and this we're going to talk about this guy to start out with. We're going to talk about Lex Luthor. Unless you didn't tell by the fact that I did a whole spoiler thing on all this stuff, we're going full spoilers here too. We got Lex Luthor, alternate reality Lex Luthor, married to alternate reality Lois Lane. He hates Superman. He sees Superman as a bad guy, as a villain. And what we see is that he's not like your normal Lex Luthor. He seems like he's genuinely going after Superman because he thinks Superman's a real threat. And what we find out is that in our universe, this guy is named John Henry Irons. Now, who is John Henry Irons? Because that name does mean something. John Henry Irons is the name of this guy. Okay, maybe that's not the best picture of him. This is Shaq playing the character in the late 90s, back when he was a big actor. This is Steel. This is, I guess I shouldn't say this is Steel. This is Shaq's version of Steel, which is absolutely awful. But Steel is kind of, what's a good way to describe him? Kind of an Iron Man-like character. He's just this engineer who's super intelligent, and he makes himself armor. He's not, if memory serves, he's not as rich as Tony Stark at all. He just kind of has scraps and stuff like that, if memory serves. But he makes himself a full suit of armor, and he's a superhero. He's one of the superheroes who stepped in for Superman's death back in the 90s when that happened. That was about the time I started collecting comic books. Dating myself quite a bit. But anyways, so we find out that this alternate reality Lex Luthor in our reality is essentially Steel. And that's kind of a fun twist. At this point in the series, I haven't done much with it, but it was kind of fun. We haven't seen too much of them, because now we are, let's go ahead and, like, we see the comic book version. Here is the show. Oh my god, stop it. What is it doing? Okay, here's the show version, which is pretty cool. I wish I could find a higher quality picture. I'm certain they are out there, but I guess we haven't seen them in the suit a whole lot. But hey, you know what? It's an upgrade from this by quite a bit. Anyways, but while the Lex Luthor character has been kind of the antagonist for probably the first 5 episodes, he was kind of the main guy we're dealing with. For the second set of episodes, episodes 6 through 11, who we are mainly dealing with is Morgan Edge, who we dealt with before. This is this rich industrialist, and one thing I kind of like is how he's using a lot of deceitful capitalist practices to get his power. Like, he's getting land in Smallville by doing this reverse mortgage thing, which is a huge con. Don't ever do a reverse mortgage. It is bullshit. Essentially, the way it works is that essentially a bank says, hey, we'll pay you money now, and if you don't pay us back, we just take your house from your family when you die. It's complete fucking bullshit. But anyways, that's one of the tricks he uses. And he also goes to Smallville, and he's creating jobs for them. So these farmers who are down on their luck, desperate for work, he's creating jobs. And we see what he's doing is he's actually using a lot of these people and giving them work opportunities. And what these work opportunities are is he's implanting Kryptonian consciousnesses into these people. So that's how come you end up with all these people with, like, Superman powers, which is a serious issue. Now, they seem like not all of these things take, so we end up with some side effects and some people who just have powers that can't really control it, and that's an issue. But as this series progresses, I'm really digging what they are doing. Because Morgan Edge is actually, twist reveal, big spoiler, Morgan Edge is actually Superman's half-brother, which is crazy. Not really a character known for siblings. In fact, this Superman's been around for, 80 years at this point, and this is like a character created for the show. Superman's half-brother. This is the son of his mother before she met his father. And his plan is fairly simple. He's implanting Kryptonian souls into people because it's kind of like the Zod plan in Man of Steel. He wants to create Krypton on this place. And the reason why the reason why he's doing this in Smallville is because that's where Clark's ship landed, and it created a whole bunch of X-Kryptonite, and because these people have been exposed to massive amounts of X-Kryptonite over time, not massive amounts, but just a little bit, but over a long period of time, they are more likely to be able to accept these Kryptonian souls into their bodies. And that brings us to Lana Lang, because one of the big twists we get revealed was that her husband, who's always been talking about how great Morgan Edge is, he volunteers for this. So there's a bit where he comes to help Lois while a couple of Kryptonians are assaulting them while Superman's off. Superman and Jordan are off in the fortress, if I remember correctly. And he comes by to help her, only to reveal that he's actually working for Morgan Edge, and he's got one of these Kryptonian souls in him too. And so we have the grandfather. Yeah, Lois, the grandfather of the kids. So Lois's father. Once they figure all this out, they're working. They get the device from Morgan Edge. God, I'm stumbling a lot now. And what they manage to do, and it's really weird when you think about it. So, Superman's mother was a big part of making this device because she wanted Kryptonian to live on. Obviously, she didn't plan to, kill innocent people to do it. But, the idea was we can preserve some Kryptonian souls in this device. So, her soul's actually in there, too. And so, Lana Lang, because she feels guilty because her husband's causing some chaos now, she volunteers to take on Superman's soul. Which in my mind is just the show doesn't approach this, but in my mind I'm thinking, wow, the soul of your mother is in your ex's body. That's weird. The show doesn't really approach it, and it really shouldn't. But it's just, I don't even know why I would think of that. That is weird stuff going on. But one of the things, oh my god, I didn't get any pictures of Superman and Lois in this whole thing. But the best episode of this series was literally the 11th one. What you get is kind of a quick, maybe 15, 20 minutes recap of Superman's origin and him and Lois Lane dating. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. After this episode, this is my favorite version of Superman and Lois. Without doubt. They had great chemistry. I believed it. And I liked their relationship. It worked for me. And yeah, it does it very quickly, and it kind of, hits you over the head with it. But it works. And also just seeing, we see his first flight, just kind of seeing his origin scene. It was kind of cool. Not quite as cool was, we saw a little bit of Morgan Edge's origin. We see him create the fortress, and I'm not going to lie, seeing him, wish I pulled up that image. If you're listening to the podcast, you're not missing anything, because there's a couple images I missed. But, seeing his origin, he looks like just generic goth emo kid. Teenage him. And apparently it was in the 80s. Was that a big deal in the 80s? Maybe. But he looks so generic, it's lame. But overall, I am loving this series. This is fantastic. I want to see where it goes. I think they're doing new episodes soon, if I remember correctly. I want to say, like, what, July 13th, July 16th, they're doing new ones again. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, or if it's out for the summer. But, yeah, apparently now Superman's going evil because he agreed to work with Morgan Edge, because Morgan Edge said, I'm going to kill your family if you don't, and we've already seen a battle. Morgan can take him fairly easily, probably just because he's older and with more experience. So I do want to see where the story goes past here, but I'm really loving this show so far. I love this version of Superman Lois. Fantastic. I enjoyed the first 5 episodes a lot. This second set of episodes just raised the bar so much. Fantastic series. Absolutely watch this. Now, down to the soapbox. And what I'm going to talk about is the struggle going on right now in America. Right now, there are lots of jobs that need filled, and people don't want to fill them after losing their jobs during the pandemic, or leaving their jobs during the pandemic. Now there are lots of jobs openings, and nobody wants to fill them. And the reason why is we have this stimulus. The reason why, well, part of the reason is we do have the stimulus, and coming up, I'll get to that later. What that did was it gave people freedom. It gave people the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to hold out and wait for a better job before I just accept anything that comes along. Because it used to be people were so desperate for money, they would just take any job that comes along no matter where. And now they're capable of saying, you know what, I'm okay for a little bit. I don't need that job. And what this means is that if employers right now are desperate for help, but if they want to actually get help, they actually have to offer a competitive wage. There's an ice cream shop. Look this up. I remember the facts, but I forgot to look it up myself. I should have brought the thing. But there's an ice cream shop that raised their starting wage to $15 an hour. And they actually stopped counting how many new applications they got, because they got over 1,000 in a week. And that's what these employers need to do. They need to raise their starting wage to be competitive, to actually offer a job that people might want to work. You know, hey, this job might be crummier, but you know what? We pay a decent wage. Now, of course, they don't want to do this. So what we end up with is this, struggle. And it's essentially a game of chicken. What's going to happen first? Are the people who need an income, are they going to run out of money and just get desperate and take any job they can get? Or are the employers going to start losing significant amounts of money and realize we need good qualified people, we should raise wages so we have people who like working and are motivated to work? And I will tell you, part of the reason some of these places are not wanting to raise wages, because if there's a union, there will be a rule saying you can't hire people that at a starting wage higher than your people who have been there for a while are already making. That's a good thing, in that, people who've been there a while shouldn't be making less than new people. But it will slow down the corporation because they realize they have to raise the wages all the way down the line. And they don't want to do that. In fact, as soon as they get these new people in and they get settled in the job, they'll probably want to drop their wage because fuck them. And when I say fuck them, I'm not speaking from me personally. I'm speaking for the corporation, because these corporations just care about money. The fact is, if they want to do well, they need to bring in good people who are qualified, and those people will be more motivated to do a good job if you pay them a decent wage. So the answer is obvious. Just raise your starting wage and you'll get people who will be all right working. Because not only that, you can actually get a choice of people, because like the ice cream shop, they got 1,000. They don't need 1,000 employees. They can actually go through and be picky. If your starting wage is $11 an hour, guess what? You're not going to get many applications, and those people who apply, well, you know what? They may not be the best. If they can't get a job anywhere else, you may be dealing with people at the bottom of the barrel. And I understand why the corporations are like this, but it's super, super frustrating. These corporations just need to raise their starting wage. And it comes down to that simply. Because people who don't want to go in and work for these corporations that are shitty to them, I 100% get that. They shouldn't. I'll be 100% blunt. I've thought about my job. And one of the things really keeping me right now is I have a fair amount of vacation time. If I go somewhere else, I'm not going to get as much vacation time. And that's a serious drawback for me, because I want to use that to spend time with my family. But we'll have to see how that goes, because I do have a bachelor's degree that's going way underserved right now. But I've worked through this pandemic. I'll see how it goes from here on out. But, if I were just looking for a new job and starting a new job, I wouldn't start where I'm at now. That's the thing. If I started where I'm at now, I won't be making the pay I'm currently at. If it was the job I started this job at, I wouldn't go where I'm at right now. And that's a lot of people are considering. And these jobs need to offer good, well-paying jobs. And they're not. It's just this tug of war. It's super frustrating, but at the same time, this is a time where workers have some power. And I don't remember who said this, but they brought that this was essentially kind of like a general strike. It's not like a real general strike where everybody just says, fuck it, we're not going to work. But it's like a pseudo general strike right now where people who are out of work saying, I don't want to go back unless you offer me something worth going back to. And that's where we have to. And the hope is that maybe, holding out long enough, they can actually raise wages. Because obviously we aren't getting $15 an hour anytime soon from the federal government. We can't count on that. One thing, now these corporations do have an ace in the hole in that they have so much money. A lot of these, some of these businesses from the pandemic, came away from that pandemic richer than they were before. So they can hold out for a long time. Because the thing to remember, a lot of small businesses went under during the pandemic, and the big ones made so much money. The only hope that the regular people have is that we do have this child tax credit thing coming that will help keep people afloat for a little bit longer. And the hope is, hopefully these corporations decide, hey, maybe we can get decent workers, because that's the thing. They shoot themselves in the foot by paying these low wages. If they paid people a decent wage and had people actually motivated to work for them, instead of just, people who just don't give a shit. Have people who are motivated to work for you. You'll get better quality of work, and in the end, you will make more money. As it is, if you nickel and dime people, they realize you are nickel and diming them, and then they don't give a shit. So, my moral here is, corporations, you want to hire good, qualified employees? There's an easy fix to that. Provide a good starting wage, and voila, it's fixed. And that, I guess that's my soapbox. That's the podcast for today. It's so weird. It's like my brain just emptied out. Well, anyways, I hope you have a good day. I have tomorrow off as well, but obviously I just did my podcast. I don't have anything put together for tomorrow. But I was thinking about maybe doing something. So there might be a little something on the YouTube channel. There won't be like an audio podcast release, but if you watch out for the YouTube channel, I'm going to see about getting a little something up there for tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Next week. Well, next week I'll have my kids. There won't be a podcast. So the week after that. Whoa. Actually, we got Black Widow. We'll have the finale for Loki. Maybe more Superman and Lois. I'm not sure when that comes back. Well, we'll definitely have Black Widow and some more Loki to talk about. So we should have fun there. We'll talk to you then. I want to go ahead and add some audio credits at the end here. The theme music you're hearing at the beginning and end of this podcast was written and performed by George Johnson, a very good friend of mine. And my current Patreons are Fel Martins, David Lara, and Lindsay Pankhurst. If you'd like to become a patron, go ahead and follow the link down below. Anything you can provide would be incredibly helpful to this channel. We're barely limping by right now. I'd love to make this my full-time job. I'm miles away from that right now. So any help you could provide, just $1 a month would be amazing. You know you want to. All your friends are doing it.